correct you there. Did you say that the 2016 ruling does not actually rule on the sovereignty? The sovereignty is still up in the air, right? So that's part of the problem because
Well,
China's claiming it and we're claiming it too. So the sovereignty
yeah,
is
but
still up in the air. What I
mm,
remember was that the arbitration ruling said that China blocking the shoal violated international
mm,
law. So
yes.
yeah. So in that sense, though, uh, it does play into the traditional fishing grounds
Well,
solution, right? That you
well,
were
well, let me
saying.
just let me just stop you there. No, we have to be very clear of what is the South China Sea arbitration decision. It is a declaratory judgment. It is not an injunction. If you
Kung bago ka lang dito sa NTPH, maaari bang makahingi ng isang like at subscribe? At huwag kalimutan pindutin ang notification bell para ma-notify kapag may ganito tayong upload. Salamat kabayan!
Fantastic. Okay, so normally when an issue around the West Philippine Sea comes up, when something blows up, the talking heads we get tend to all say the same thing, which is China is wrong. We need to assert our sovereignty, et cetera, et cetera. So they all kind of agree on the same things. Which I don't know has gotten us anywhere. So we decided to bring you in tonight because I remember in the time of President Duterte, you were actually quite critical of the arbitration ruling, and you posted a number of things about that ruling, which some of them which were debunked by Verifox. But in any case, the reason we're talking to you tonight is what are we missing here? I mean, none of the if anything, it feels like the incidents over at the West Philippine Sea are even escalating. So what's missing in this picture?
What's missing is the right solution. That's why it's escalating. Because if you have the right solution, then it should not be escalating. So as simple as that. Well, not so much about people debunking what I have said. No, it was not properly debunked, and I was been given a chance to reply. But we have to go back. I agree with them that we do have. I have agreement with them that we do have to protect the rights of our fishermen in Scarborough Shoal. Pero the language I'm using is different from them. And the language I'm using actually comes from the South China Sea arbitral decision. And as perhaps not a lot of Filipino knows na noong nag-file tayo ng arbitration case noon sa The Hague, ang ating ipinaglaban ay ang traditional fishing rights ng ating mga mangingisda. We didn't fight for Scarborough Shoal because it's part of our exclusive economic zone. We fought for the traditional fishing rights of our fishermen. At magkaiba itong lengguwahe sa international law. And I believe that this was a brilliant tactic used by our legal team. I think one of the shining moments of the decision. Why? Because traditional fishing rights are vested rights, and these are held by private individuals. Even in the event that that the sovereignty of Scarborough Shoal was decided to be with China, the traditional fishing rights of our people around Scarborough Shoal has to be respected. So the Scarborough Shoal, as according to the South China Sea arbitration, is a traditional fishing grounds of Filipinos, Chinese, and other nationalities. So the decision, if we really believe in the wisdom of the South China Sea arbitration, then our language must flow from the language of the decision. Why are we talking about that it's part of our exclusive economic zone when in the South China Sea arbitration, we fought for the Scarborough Shoal on the basis of the traditional fishing rights of our fishermen? So we have to go from there. And I believe na if we actually work on that, from that argument, we would have a better solution and sustainable agreement with China, because we both agree that these are traditional fishing grounds. No, it's history cannot we cannot deny history, and of course by virtue of geography that the fishermen of China, Philippines, and other coastal states of the South China Sea are actually fishing in Scarborough Shoal. But for me, in Scarborough Shoal, I think what should be prioritized is that harmonization of the traditional fishing rights of Chinese and Filipino fishermen.
Actually, let me correct you there. Did you say the 2016 ruling does not actually rule on the sovereignty? The sovereignty is still up in the air, right? So that's part of the problem because
Well,
China's claiming it and we're claiming it too. So the sovereignty
yeah,
is
but
still up in the air. What I remember was that the arbitration ruling said that China blocking the shoal violated international law. So
yes.
yeah. So in that sense, though, it does play into the traditional fishing grounds solution, right? That you were saying.
Let me just stop you there. No, we have to be very clear of what is the South China Sea arbitration decision. It is a declaratory judgment. It is not an injunction. If you would like to have to make China do something, you have to file another arbitration case that would actually make China do something, but it would be fruitless as the first one. So we have to proceed from here because it is the best route. That is to harmonize the traditional fishing rights of both Filipino fishermen and Chinese fishermen.
So when you say the wrong solutions, we're looking at the wrong solutions, what would you have this administration do that wasn't done in the previous administration?
Well, the problem is we are two entirely different countries when it comes to continuity. You know that the People's Republic of China has continuity in its policy, and in our country we change president every 6 years. So that means the foreign policy changes every 6 years. We have to have if we would like to negotiate with China. And to harmonize our traditional fishing rights, which actually recognized by the South China Sea arbitration. You know, the Chinese fisher, it's in paragraph 806, no, 805 of the South China Sea arbitration that both Chinese and Filipino fishermen have traditional fishing rights in the Scarborough Shoal. So what we need to do is let's go back to the negotiating table, and this was also the advice of one of the judges of the South China Sea arbitration, that's Judge Rudiger Wolfram, in November 2021. He emphasized that the South China Sea is an enclosed sea, and under UNCLOS, you know, an enclosed sea has a different kind of law. And in international law, you know, the special law overrides the general law. We're still talking about UNCLOS in terms of general law. We have to talk about it in terms of the specific law applicable to the South China Sea, which is an enclosed sea. And according to Article 221 to 222, if I'm not mistaken, you know, coastal states bordering an enclosed and semi-enclosed sea have the duty to coordinate their rights because yung kanilang mga karapatan and responsibilities are indivisible in the context of a semi-enclosed and enclosed sea such as the South China Sea.
Right, Sass. So, etong issue na in particular, this latest one, no, is naglagay yung China ng barrier. Hinarangan nila yung bukana ng Scarborough Shoal, pinutol ng Coast Guard as per the instruction of President Marcos. What do you make of this? Would this not be fighting for the rights, for our traditional fishing rights? Do you think it's a little bit too hard or too harsh?
Well, I think, you know, from the surface, if we're going to look at the position of China and the Philippines, they are doing something in accordance with their position. China did that because it believes that it has sovereignty over there, and the Philippines did that because, according to the Philippines, it has sovereignty over there. That is expected. But the thing is, we are approaching this issue on positions. You know, in negotiations, you have to negotiate based on interest. And we have coinciding interests. You know, we have mutual interests. And that is the preservation of the fishing grounds so that we both benefit from it. So I guess we have to go back, no, to the negotiating table, and we have to approach this scientifically. We have to approach it from an ecological point of view, especially on determining the sink and the source cycle of the Scarborough Shoal. Kasi I believe that inside the shoal, diyan talaga nagbe-breed yung mga isda.
Sass,
No?
given the latest developments and the destruction of the coral reefs, do you think we are aligned when it comes to the interest in preserving that as a fishing ground? Kasi sinasabi nila na ito yung prelude, yung ginagawa ng China doon ay prelude sa paggagawa nila ng artificial islands. Whereas tayo naman,
Well, if they
fishing ground yun para sa atin.
Well, if they create an artificial island there, then they destroy the fishing ground of their fishermen as well. So that is not a rational move for China to do. Do we believe that China, that has lifted 800 million of its people in one generation, is an irrational country?
So you
I
don't
think
think
we
that
have
they
to-
did the, you don't think they were the ones responsible for the destruction of the coral reefs there?
Well, I don't have the facts with me, no? Then if there is really a destruction of coral reefs there, then the rational thing to do is to launch a joint investigation.
I think that is happening right now, Sass. Sass, when you say dapat tayo bumalik sa negotiating table, I think parang ilang years, dekada na nga yata tayo, no? Na nasa negotiating table, but nothing
That's
is
incorrect.
happening.
That's incorrect.
Go ahead.
There were no negotiations being conducted. If there are negotiations being conducted, then you should, the press, the journalists should demand the DFA to at least provide you the progress reports of this negotiation. So we cannot assume that there are negotiations or that there were ongoing negotiations without actually presenting at least the progress reports of these negotiations. But as now, we cannot say that there are negotiations because there are no progress reports being presented to the public.
But the president went to China I
There were
believe
talks,
this year.
I
There were
guess, not
talks.
formal negotiations, but there were a lot of talks, not just obviously.
Talks are different from
Yeah.
negotiations.
Of course, there's a big difference. But I guess Sean's point is that we've been talking to them. It's not like we're stonewalling
Yes,
Beijing, right? So there have been talks. Doors are open. There's dialogues. There's diplomats, working behind the scenes, trying to smooth things over. They may not necessarily talk to us. And in fact, we have spoken off the record with some of the diplomats, and we know that they're trying to, come to a mutual agreement about these issues. But of course, it's a very difficult one.
I do not, I am I'm a scholar. I don't just rely on talks. I have to see the actual progress reports of these negotiations if there are. It's so easy to do that. Tell us, when did you go there? What was, you don't need to reveal everything on what is being talked about. But if I can remember it clearly, during the time of President Duterte, there were actually it was your channel who interviewed the fisherman. I don't know if it's your channel or the government's channel, who interviewed the fisherman there, that during Duterte's time, they were allowed again to fish in Scarborough Shoal, but not inside, because inside the Scarborough Shoal, that's where the fish breed. So that's why we have to go back. No, we have to conduct proper negotiation, and then we have to ensure that what we are going to talk about and what we are going to agree on will have continuity on our side, because we have a problem when in terms of foreign policy continuity, given the structure of our government that doesn't allow us to have continuous policy implementation.
Right.
So does that mean that you don't agree with the foreign policy of the current administration, and you would like to see the former administration's foreign policy continue on? You're talking about continuity.
Well, until someone present to me an academic study that proves that their policy actually works, then I will side with them. But as far as my academic studies on international negotiation is concerned, it is well established that bilateral negotiation is the most efficient route to go in order to resolve a conflict. And if you add a third party to the conflict that's not involved, then the negotiation and the conflict will actually last longer.